I learned early that love in our house was conditional. It wasn't said out loud, but it was enforced in 1,000 quiet ways. Olivia got applause for existing. I got nods when I was useful. If she entered a room, conversations shifted toward her like gravity. If I entered, people asked what needed fixing. When relatives visited, they brought Olivia dresses and praise. For me, they brought requests. Can you carry this? Can you help your uncle with the shelf? You're so independent. You don't need much, right? Independence became my cage. Because once people decide you don't need anything, they stop offering. At school, teachers described me as low maintenance. My parents loved that phrase. Low maintenance meant no trouble. No trouble meant no attention. No attention meant no expectations of protection. When Olivia cried, my mother rushed. When I stayed silent, my father approved. Quinn's strong, he'd say. She can handle it. That sentence followed me everywhere. Every disappointment, every boundary crossed, every moment where someone else's comfort mattered more than my pain. By 12, I cooked my own meals. By 14, I paid for my clothes. By 16, I understood that asking was weakness in a house that rewarded taking. Olivia never noticed. Why would she? The system worked perfectly for her. She wasn't cruel, not deliberately. She was simply raised to believe the world would rearrange itself around her. And it did, including me. I became the background hum of the family, always present, never centered. If I vanished, the house would still function, just a little louder, a little messier. That was my value. The night I decided to leave wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no slammed doors. I watched my parents celebrate Olivia's college acceptance at dinner, champagne, speeches, tears. I had been accepted to a trade program the same week. No one asked. I realized then that if I stayed, I'd disappear completely. So I packed quietly. I left a note on the kitchen counter, weighted down with my house key. It said, "I'll be fine." That was the only truth they ever expected from me. I moved into a shared apartment across town. I worked mornings at a hardware store and nights cleaning offices. I learned the weight of drywall, the smell of sawdust, the language of blueprints. For the first time, effort equaled outcome. If something broke, I fixed it. If I failed, I learned. If I succeeded, it was mine. No applause, but also no entitlement. Years passed. Distance settled in. My parents called less. Olivia called only when she needed something explained or repaired. And I let it happen. Because even then, part of me still believed my purpose was to support the structure, not question who designed it. I didn't know yet that one day, they'd try to take something I built with my own hands. And when they did, I would finally stop being invisible. The house on Juniper Avenue wasn't listed so much as abandoned. The realtor didn't bother unlocking the front door at first. She stood on the curb, heels sinking into cracked pavement, and said, "You know this is a teardown, right?" I nodded, already staring at the windows. Most people saw rot. I saw timing. The roof sagged like a tired spine. One corner of the foundation had dropped nearly 2 inches. The siding peeled away in long, exhausted strips. Inside, the air smelled like dust, mold, and old winters that had never really ended. It felt familiar. I bought it with everything I had and nothing left over. No safety net, no cosigner, no congratulations. The first night, I slept in my coat on the attic floor because it was the only place the rain didn't reach. I listened to the house settle around me, wood popping, pipes ticking, the quiet groan of something that had been left behind too long. I made a promise to it then, and to myself. I started with the bones. Foundation repairs at dawn before my day job. Framing at night under a single work lamp. I watched videos, read manuals, failed, redid, learned. My hands blistered and hardened. My shoulders ached in a way that felt earned. Every improvement was invisible to outsiders. No one clapped when the joists finally aligned. No one praised me for rewiring the breaker box correctly. But the house noticed. It stopped shaking when the wind hit. It held heat. It began to feel safe. Months passed. Then a year. I replaced windows one paycheck at a time. Sanded floors until my knees screamed. Salvaged cabinets from demolition sites and made them fit. I cooked on a hot plate. Showered at the gym. Ate sitting on overturned buckets. And slowly, quietly, the place transformed. That's when my family started showing up. First my mother, wrinkling her nose. "It's better than I expected." Then my father, walking through rooms like he'd built them himself. Good investment, he said. Real estate always pays off. Olivia came last. She walked in, spun once in the living room, and smiled. Wow, this would make such a cute starter home. Not my home. Not your home. Just available. I corrected her, gently. She laughed like I'd made understand her wrong. From that day on, the comments didn't stop. You have extra rooms. You live alone. Family should share. No one asked how many nights I slept cold. No one asked what it cost me to make the place stand. They saw a finished product and assumed it had always been meant for them. I installed a security system the week my father joked about keeping a spare key. I didn't laugh. The house had taught me something by then. Strength doesn't announce itself. It reinforces quietly until someone tries to break it. And when they did, I was ready. The shift wasn't sudden. It crept in the way mold does, slow, quiet. Thriving in corners people pretend not to see. Once the house looked finished, my role in the family changed overnight. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was useful again. My mother started calling weekly, not to ask how I was, just to comment on the house. What it must be worth now. How lucky I was. How proud my father felt, even if he didn't say it out loud. Luck, pride, words people use when they want credit without contribution. My father visited more often. He brought no tools, no food, no offers of help. He walked through each room slowly, hands behind his back, nodding as if inspecting an employee's work. You did well, he said once. We always knew you had it in you. As if endurance were inherited. Olivia began stopping by unannounced. She treated the place like a showroom, opening closets, testing light switches, rearranging furniture when she thought I wasn't looking. This room would be perfect for a nursery, she said one afternoon, already planning a future that didn't include me. I reminded her I wasn't going anywhere. She smiled, indulgent. Of course not. I just mean later. Later became a weapon. At family dinners, the house came up constantly, always framed as a shared asset, a solution, a convenience. It's just sitting there, my aunt said once. She doesn't even have kids, my cousin added. It makes sense for Olivia, my mother concluded. No one asked me what made sense. When I pushed back, even gently, the tone shifted. Why are you being difficult? Why are you so selfish? After everything we've done for you? That last one always stunned me. I replayed my childhood in my head, searching for these invisible gifts I apparently owed repayment for. Shelter? Obligation? Food? I started documenting everything. Texts, emails, comments made jokingly, but repeated too often to be jokes. My father laughed when he noticed. You don't trust family now? Trust, I'd learned, was another word for access. The pressure escalated when Olivia got engaged. Suddenly, the house wasn't just desirable, it was necessary. Venues were expensive. Rent was unreasonable. Starting a life was hard. I was told to be understanding. My mother cried on the phone. My father grew cold. Olivia stopped pretending. You don't need it like I do, she said flatly. You've already had your turn. My turn. As if stability were a ride to step off once you'd enjoyed it enough. That was the moment something in me hardened. I installed cameras. I moved the deed into a trust. I consulted a lawyer quietly. And when the wedding invitation arrived, embossed and elegant, there was a note tucked inside. Please don't bring up the house. Let's just enjoy the day. I stared at that sentence for a long time. They weren't asking for peace. They were asking for silence. And I already knew what silence had cost me. So I RVP'd yes. Because if they wanted a scene, they were going to get the truth instead. The venue sat high in the mountains, all glass and stone and curated elegance. Every surface reflected money, polished, controlled, undeniable. As I stepped inside, the air smelled like pine and champagne, a combination meant to feel timeless and expensive. I felt neither. I wore a simple black dress, no statement jewelry, no attempt to compete. I wasn't there to be seen. I was there to observe. Olivia looked perfect. Of course she did. White satin, flawless makeup, the kind of calm that comes from knowing everything has been handled for you. She hugged me lightly, careful not to wrinkle anything. You made it, she said, surprised. Of course, I replied. I wouldn't miss it. The ceremony passed in a blur of vows and rehearsed laughter. People cried on cue. Applause rose and fell exactly when expected. I clapped when everyone else did, smiling when it was required, staying quiet when it wasn't. My father avoided me. That should have warned me. At the reception, the lights dimmed and the speeches began. Friends first, then my mother, trembling with emotion, praising love, family, sacrifice. And then my father stood. He adjusted his jacket, lifted his glass, and smiled the way he did when he believed he was in control. I want to talk about generosity, he began, about what it means to support the people you love. I felt it then, the tightening, the subtle shift in the room. He looked directly at me. And today, he continued, we're so proud that Quinn has chosen to give Olivia and her new husband the home on Juniper Avenue. A fresh start, a real foundation. For half a second, the room didn't react. Then applause exploded. People turned toward me, smiling, nodding, congratulating me for a decision I had never made. My ears rang. I stood. That's not true, I said. The microphone caught it. A ripple passed through the room. My father laughed, sharp and warning. Quinn, he said quietly, through his teeth. Don't do this. I stepped forward. You don't own my house. You never did. The room went silent. My father's hand closed around my arm. Hard. Enough, he hissed. I pulled away. Let go of me. He shoved me. There was no dramatic pause. No warning. Just sudden force. I stumbled backward. My heel caught the edge of the marble step. The world tilted. Then pain. My head struck stone. A sound like something cracking open. Warmth spilled down my neck. People screamed. Someone dropped a glass. I tasted iron. As I lay there, staring up at the chandelier, I saw phones raised, faces frozen between horror and fascination, and my father standing over me already lifting his hands. She slipped, he said. She's always been clumsy. That's when I knew. No matter how much I bled, he would rewrite it, unless I made sure he couldn't. I woke up in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and burned coffee. My head felt too heavy for my neck, like it didn't quite belong to me anymore. When I tried to lift my hand, a sharp pain shot through my skull and I hissed. Easy, a nurse said. You took a hard hit. 7 staples. A concussion. Very lucky, the doctor told me, in the same tone people use when they don't want to imagine the alternative. Fragments came back slowly, the shove, the marble, the sound. The way the room had inhaled all at once. What came back next was my phone. It wouldn't stop vibrating. Texts, missed calls, notifications stacking on top of each other so fast they blurred. When I finally opened one app, the video filled the screen before I even searched for it. My father's hand, my body moving backward, my head hitting stone. Clear, stable, undeniable. Someone had edited together multiple angles, guest phones, venue cameras, even the bar's security feed. No music, no captions, just the truth, playing on a loop. 5 million views by morning. By the time the police arrived, the narrative my father had always relied on was already dead. They took my statement. This time, I didn't soften anything. I didn't explain his stress, or his intentions, or how he didn't mean it. I said what happened, and for once, that was enough. A temporary restraining order was issued that afternoon. My father wasn't allowed within 100 yards of me or my home. When they told him he was being charged, witnesses said he looked genuinely confused, as if consequences were a foreign language. My mother called that night. Her voice cracked. Why would you do this to the family? I closed my eyes. I didn't do anything. I stopped covering it up. She cried. She begged. She asked me to think about Olivia, about reputations, about how hard this was for everyone. I asked her when it had ever been hard for me. The line went quiet. Olivia texted once. This went too far. You could have handled it privately, because privately was where they always won. The wedding photos were never posted. A month later, he took a plea deal. I didn't attend the hearing. I didn't need to see him smaller to feel free. What mattered was Juniper Avenue. My lawyer finalized everything: ironclad trust, security upgrades, legal notices sent to anyone who'd ever hinted at entitlement. The house was untouchable now, not because of fear, but because of clarity. The first night I slept back home, the place was quiet in a way it had never been before. Not tense, not waiting, just solid. I sat on the kitchen floor, back against the cabinets I'd built with my own hands, and let myself cry, not from pain, but from release. I didn't lose my family that day. I lost the illusion that they were ever protecting me. And in return, I gained something better. My name, my home, my voice. The video still circulates sometimes. Strangers recognize me. They say I'm brave. I don't feel brave. I feel finished with being invisible.